Who says the Wild West was all grit, gunfights, and glory? Hollywood's golden age had a secret. Some of the best shootouts happened right after a punchline. When saddle-sore heroes started trading insults faster than bullets, the Western comedy was born. And the 1940s served up some absolute gems. But which films really turned the tumbleweed into a laugh riot? Saddle up, because this ride through cinematic history will have you grinning wider than a coyote in a chicken coop. The Paleface, 1948. Bob Hope's The Paleface flips the Western on its head, swapping steely-eyed grit for slapstick mayhem. Hope plays Painless Potter, a cowardly dentist mistaken for a legendary gunslinger who bumbles his way through the roughest corners of the frontier. Dragged along by Jane Russell's Calamity Jane, whose six-shooter is sharper than any punchline, Potter stumbles into heroics with nothing but dumb luck and a mouth full of one-liners. What makes this film so iconic isn't just Hope's rapid-fire gags, but its willingness to make the hero look ridiculous, spoofing every macho cliché in sight. Jane Russell plays the straight woman, doubling the laughs with her deadpan delivery. Behind the scenes, this was a studio gamble that paid off, making a killing at the box office and inspiring a wave of comedic westerns that followed. Film historians agree, The Paleface is the template for Western spoofs, its influence echoing from Blazing Saddles to modern animation. Sometimes, the Wild West didn't need a hero. It just needed a guy who knew how to duck. My Little Chickadee, 1940. Mae West and W.C. Fields bring their quick wits and sharper tongues to My Little Chickadee, a Western that revels in scandal and slapstick. West's Flower Belle Lee is run out of town for being too outrageous, a title she wears like a badge, while Fields' Cuthbert J. Twilly fakes heroism to win her hand and survive Greasewood City, a haven for rogues and gamblers. The film breaks all the rules, packing every scene with innuendo, sight gags, and legendary banter. The chemistry between West and Fields is explosive. Never quite partners, always rivals in repartee. Universal took a big swing with this anti-Western, letting both stars write their own lines and push censors to the brink. Historians call it the original Western parody, twisting genre norms, mocking outlaws, and making fun of Western romance. My Little Chickadee is wild, subversive, and a must-see for anyone who thinks cowboys should be able to talk as fast as they draw. Go West, 1940. Only the Marx Brothers could transform the mythic frontier into a full-blown madhouse. Go West isn't your granddaddy's Western. It's a wild, breakneck ride where logic takes the first train out of town, and the only thing faster than a bullet is Groucho's wisecracks. This is the West, as seen through a funhouse mirror, and absolutely nobody, cowboy, bandit, or railroad tycoon, makes it out with their dignity intact. Here's the setup. Groucho, Chico, and Harpo are three down-on-their-luck grifters drifting into the gold rush era. Instead of gold, they strike comedic chaos, stumbling into a land-swindling scheme involving a clueless prospector, a ruthless railroad company, and a deed to a fortune in real estate. If you think the West was built on rugged individualism, the Marx Brothers are here to prove it was actually built on puns, pratfalls, and perfect comic timing. Go West gleefully tears apart every Western trope. The heroic cowboy, Groucho Marx's Wolf J. flywheel, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but he can talk anyone into anything, especially if it means a free lunch. The gunslinger showdown? It's more likely to end in a pie fight than a shootout. The romantic subplot? Good luck keeping track of it amidst the whirl of double crosses and train chases. And speaking of train chases, the film's legendary finale, a runaway train sequence where the Marxes literally disassemble the train to keep it running, is one of the most anarchic and perfectly timed set pieces in comedy history. It's physical comedy, vaudeville mischief, and cartoon lunacy all at once. What makes Go West endure isn't just the slapstick, but the smart, subversive bite underneath the gags. The Marx Brothers knew the Western mythos was ripe for roasting, and they took aim at everything: the greed, the romanticizing of outlaws, the railroad baron's power. Groucho's sarcasm is a machine gun. Chico's scams are as intricate as a poker game, and Harpo's silent antics could derail an entire cavalry charge. Behind the laughter, you get a sly critique of American ambition, served up with a side of banana peels. Go West is the gold standard for Western parody. Film historians point to it as the moment when Hollywood's untouchable cowboy myth finally got a pie in the face. If you think the Wild West is sacred, just wait until the Marx Brothers get hold of it. You'll never look at a stagecoach or a saloon piano the same way again. Along Came Jones, 1945. The Marx Brothers go buck wild and go west, transforming the Old West into a chaos zone where gags fly faster than bullets. Groucho, Chico, and Harpo land in the gold rush. But they're not looking for gold. They're prospecting for laughs. Instead of rugged cowboys, you get grifters who bumble through land schemes and railroad swindles, armed with only their signature brand of surreal, rapid-fire comedy. Forget about tough gunslingers. Groucho's Wolf J. Flywheel can't shoot straight, but he can talk his way out of any showdown. Chico's fast-talking con games tie the villains in knots, and Harpo's wordless mischief escalates every situation into slapstick pandemonium. The film doesn't just parody Western conventions. It blows them up with banana peels, pratfalls, and enough puns to derail a cattle drive. The legendary runaway train finale is peak Marx Brothers. A whirlwind of comic timing, inventive stunts, and perfectly orchestrated mayhem. It's proof that when the Marxes are at the throttle, nobody, cowboy, outlaw, or railroad baron, gets out with their dignity intact. Historians celebrate Go West as a turning point, the moment when Hollywood's most sacred cowboy myths finally got a pie in the face. If you think the Wild West was all dust and heroics, let the Marx Brothers show you just how wild and weird it could really get. The Dude Goes West, 1948. What happens when a mild-mannered New Yorker with more brains than brawn heads west? In The Dude Goes West, Eddie Albert's Daniel Bone turns cowboy culture upside down and gives the frontier a much-needed shot of humor. Daniel is a shy, inventive gunsmith, craving adventure beyond city life. Armed with home-built gadgets and relentless optimism, he rides the rails into a world of grizzled prospectors, outlaws, and no-nonsense women. But where most city slickers would be easy prey, Daniel's bizarre inventions and quick thinking keep saving his skin, usually by accident. The film thrives on upending classic Western scenarios. Gadgets backfire, guns misfire, and a dynamite saddle nearly launches Daniel sky high. Barroom brawls and shootouts all get a comic twist, with outlaws continually outsmarted by Daniel's unexpected brilliance. Penny Singleton, as the tough Liza Crockett, provides the perfect foil, exasperated, charmed, and eventually smitten. Their banter and odd couple chemistry drive much of the comedy, while comic heavies like Stephen Dunn and James Gleason add extra zing. Critics called it a breath of fresh air, and historians now praise it as a clever lampoon of the tenderfoot myth. The Dude Goes West proves you don't need to be the fastest gun, just the smartest, and maybe a little lucky to win the West, and plenty of laughs. The Kansan, 1943. In the midst of 1940s Hollywood, when most Westerns aimed to build bigger legends, the Kansan took a sharp detour, mixing frontier action with sly humor and a pinch of satirical wit. Richard Dix stars as John Bonnewell, an ex-cavalryman hoping for peace in Broken Lance, a classic Western town overflowing with crooked sheriffs, conniving bankers, and every type of card sharp imaginable. Bonnewell's heroics don't come from blazing guns, but from a strange mix of luck and bemused indifference. Before he knows it, he's elected sheriff, without even trying. Suddenly, he's up against a bandit gang, scheming townsfolk, and a community just as likely to hang him as buy him a drink. What makes the Kansan stand out is its subversive humor. Every showdown comes with a twist or a well-timed quip, and every sticky situation might be solved with a shrug as easily as a six-shooter. Richard Dix's dry delivery keeps things clever, while Jane Wyatt and Albert Decker add their own comic sparkle. For film historians, the Kansan is an early example of the Western poking fun at itself while still delivering all the expected action. Sometimes the best lawman isn't the toughest. He's just the one who can keep a straight face when the whole town's gone crazy. She Done Him Wrong in the Saddle, 1941. Long before Mel Brooks rolled into town with Blazing Saddles, Hollywood was already busy lampooning the Old West, and She Done Him Wrong in the Saddle stands as an early, delightfully chaotic example. Starring vaudeville's El Brendel, this little-known parody doesn't just poke fun at Western tropes. It grabs them by the collar, spins them around, and throws them headfirst into a custard pie. Set in an exaggerated frontier town, crawling with suspicious characters, the film follows Hans Nielsen, a bumbling Scandinavian immigrant whose simple dream of opening a bakery quickly turns into wild mayhem. Hans is swept into a ridiculous whirl of outlaws, rigged card games, and a melodramatic damsel who could give Mae West a run for her money. What should be a standard good versus evil showdown becomes pure slapstick chaos. Runaway horses, botched poker games, and a gunfight that ends in a custard-flinging brawl. She Done Him Wrong in the Saddle isn't subtle. Its humor is loud, physical, and relentlessly silly, pulling from silent film pratfalls, vaudeville routines, and every exaggerated Western cliché in the book. The saloon is packed with visual gags. Villains twirl their mustaches like helicopter blades. The heroine faints on cue, and even the title is a cheeky nod to Mae West's own film. Behind the slapstick, this film serves as a fascinating time capsule of Hollywood's willingness to experiment and laugh at its own genre myths. El Brendel's innocent, naive, and inexplicably lucky persona keeps the chaos rolling. It may not have been a box office giant, but She Done Him Wrong in the Saddle is celebrated by film historians as a wild, wacky marriage of Western and farce, proof that sometimes the real hero is the pie-tossing baker behind the bar. Blazing Guns, 1943. When you picture classic B-westerns, you might expect stoic heroes, perilous canyon chases, and tense high-noon duels. But Blazing Guns gleefully tosses all that aside in favor of pure comic absurdity. This quirky PRC-produced entry, starring Buster Crabbe and Al Fuzzy St. John, would rather tickle your funny bone than polish any Wild West legends. On the surface, it starts out like a standard odor. Billy Carson and his muddled sidekick Fuzzy uncover a crooked land scheme in a nervous frontier town. But very quickly, it's clear you're in for something different. Fuzzy doesn't just supply comic relief, he hijacks the movie with bumbling luck, wild stunts, and get-rich-quick schemes that always backfire in the most ridiculous ways. What makes Blazing Guns memorable is its fearless lampooning of the classic hero-sidekick dynamic. Crabbe might play it straight, but Fuzzy's misadventures, outwitting bandits by accident, stumbling into villain lairs, starting pie-eating contests, and chicken chases, turn every serious moment into a comic highlight. The movie's modest budget only adds to the fun, as the stunts lean more toward pratfalls than punch-outs. While most B-westerns faded into the background, Blazing Guns became a favorite with genre fans for its relentless silliness. Film historians point to this era as the time when sidekicks like Fuzzy stole the show, becoming stars in their own right. In fact, Fuzzy's antics grew so popular that entire films began to revolve around his comic persona. For every steely cowboy, there's a wild-eyed joker with a chicken under his arm, and Blazing Guns proves that sometimes the biggest laughs come from the most unlikely heroes. The Harvey Girls, 1946. Who knew Judy Garland could turn the sun-baked American frontier into a Broadway-style laugh riot? The Harvey Girls isn't your typical shoot-'em-up, but don't be fooled. This Technicolor musical is just as much a comedy of errors as a heartfelt tribute to the mythic West. In this story, the cavalry doesn't wear spurs, they wear petticoats, and the big showdown is served with a side of mashed potatoes. Garland stars as Susan Bradley, a spunky woman who arrives by train as one of the legendary Harvey Girls. Waitresses brought west to civilize rough railway towns, and, let's be honest, run circles around the saloon crowd. Immediately, the film serves up a classic culture clash. The Harvey Girls' quest to bring order, charm, and real meals is met by a rowdy, all-male population who'd rather drink whiskey than eat stew. Judy Garland's comic timing and playful sarcasm shine as she faces off against Angela Lansbury's scheming saloon singer. Their rivalry, mixed with physical comedy, quick banter, and full-scale musical numbers, explodes in a glorious free-for-all, including a food fight for the ages. MGM pulled out all the stops: lavish sets, big stars, and tunes that stick in your head. But the soul of the film is its cheeky spirit. These women are the real cavalry, using wit and optimism to tame the town. Historians celebrate the Harvey Girls for how it pokes fun at Western macho culture while celebrating community. If you think Westerns are just dust and danger, watch Garland and her crew serve up sass, song, and a pie fight that puts any showdown to shame. Prairie Chickens, 1943. Ever wondered what would happen if the Marx Brothers made a B-Western? Prairie Chickens comes pretty close, tossing out the Western law book in favor of madcap laughs and slapstick chaos. This entry in the Three Musketeers comedy cycle stars Noah Beery Jr. and Jimmy Rogers as two luckless cowhands, Jimmy and Sandy, who are roped into sorting out a family feud over a patch of prairie. Instead of high-stakes duels, the film serves up misunderstandings, property lines drawn in circles, and cattle who seem more in control than the humans. Jimmy and Sandy are always a beat behind, ducking angry townsfolk, dodging flying fists in the saloon, and scrambling to keep their hats on their heads. Raymond Hatton's comic sidekick piles on the laughs with running gags about mistaken identity, fake telegrams, and an endless stream of livestock shenanigans. What really makes Prairie Chickens stand out is its determination not to play things straight. Every standoff is played for laughs. Every moment of tension dissolves into sight gags or pratfalls, and even the villains seem to enjoy the joke. The movie moves at a breakneck pace. There's barely a moment to catch your breath before the next round of comic confusion erupts. Film historians love Prairie Chickens as a shining example of how low-budget 40s westerns could reinvent themselves by embracing comedy. It's proof that you don't need an epic budget to earn a barrel of laughs, just a couple of silly cowboys, a wild plot, and the guts to turn every Western cliché on its head. Western Jamboree, 1944. Ever wondered what would happen if the Grand Ole Opry took over Dodge City? Western Jamboree answers that question with Gene Autry at the helm, leading a musical comedy brimming with rootin'-tootin' hijinks, secret saboteurs, and enough double entendre to leave even the toughest cowpoke grinning. Autry plays himself, the king of the cowboys, running a ranch that moonlights as a base for outsmarting a gang of troublemakers. Sounds tense? Not for long. The real fun starts when cowhands burst into spontaneous harmonies while saddling up, and the villains seem more thrown by the songs and slapstick than by any threat of law. Comic sidekick Smiley Burnett is a scene stealer, inventing crazy gadgets that misfire and misinterpreting every order from Gene. Horses get in on the act, rolling their eyes at the endless parade of human antics. Every musical number is a comedic set piece, poking fun at cowboy cliches and bringing everyone, villain or hero, into the big show. Western Jamboree is pure escapism, the kind of movie that had wartime America dancing in the aisles. The plot is light, but the fun never stops. Songs, gags, and a few pie fights keep the energy high. Autry's natural charisma keeps the whole show grounded, his easy humor a balm for the hardest trail. Historians love Western Jamboree for showing the Western genre could be just as joyful as it was tough. With slapstick, song, and sly winks at cowboy legend, it's a film that'll have you tapping your boots and maybe even singing along with the posse. Cowboy Canteen, 1944. While war raged abroad and swing music filled American airwaves, Cowboy Canteen brought some much-needed sunshine to Western movie fans. This musical comedy is a whirlwind of barn dances, USO shows, and cattle drives, all rolled into one toe-tapping feel-good package. Here, the toughest cowboys aren't wrangling outlaws. They're fighting for a turn on the dance floor or a spot in the next variety act. The story unfolds at a ranch that's been transformed into an entertainment hub for visiting soldiers. The madcap plot follows singing cowboys and their clever lady friends as they scramble to put on a barn-burning show. There's a token villain, but his main job is to serve as the punchline between musical numbers and keep the comic energy buzzing. Comedy gallops in alongside slapstick, backstage chaos, and a healthy dose of wisecracks. Character actors like Ginn, Big Boy Williams, and Sid Saylor keep the gags rolling. Whether it's a square dance gone hilariously wrong, livestock running wild, or stage props malfunctioning, the fun here is warm, communal, and never too mean-spirited. Rather than poke fun at the Western myth, Cowboy Canteen lovingly parodies it, celebrating camaraderie, performance, and the sheer joy of making music together. There's no room for brooding anti-heroes, only a parade of good-natured eccentrics and infectious big band tunes. Film historians call Cowboy Canteen a perfect example of 1940s westerns embracing lighthearted escapism. It's a reminder that laughter and music can bridge any distance between prairie and city, or war and peace. If you want your western with a side of swing and smiles, this canteen always has seconds. The Old Chisholm Trail, 1942. The cattle drive was never this rowdy or this much fun. The Old Chisholm Trail, starring Johnny Mac Brown and the ever-boisterous Andy Devine, takes the dust and danger of 1,000 Western sagas and spins them into a rollicking comedy filled with misadventure, musical interludes, and enough wisecracks to last the trail from Texas to Kansas. The plot is vintage Western. Rival ranchers clash over water rights as they drive their herds north, tempers run high, and danger lurks at every crossing. But here's the twist. Andy Devine's comic relief isn't just an afterthought. It's a driving force. As the perpetually hungry, endlessly cheerful sidekick, Devine is a one-man gag machine, turning even the tensest cattle stampede into a scene worthy of a Keystone Cops routine. The film's charm lies in its light touch. Brown's stoic heroics play perfectly off Devine's goofball antics, with every attempted showdown or villainous plot interrupted by slapstick blunders or a bit of comic double talk. The supporting cast joins in the fun, with singing cowboys breaking into spontaneous numbers and the local townsfolk offering running commentary worthy of a vaudeville act. Director Elmer Clifton knew his way around a Western, but here he lets the comedy breathe, making sure no brawl or bumpy wagon ride goes without a pratfall or punchline. The Old Chisholm Trail may be a B picture, but it delivers A-grade laughs, especially if you're a fan of Andy Devine's high-pitched voice and wobbly walk. For film historians, this movie is a textbook example of the era's blend of action and humor. It's a reminder that the Old West wasn't just about six-gun justice and dusty trails. Sometimes it was about surviving the ride with your sense of humor and your lunch intact. Trail of the Vigilantes, 1940. If you think the Old West was all dusty trails and stone-faced gunslingers, Trail of the Vigilantes is here to shoot that idea full of holes, literally. This universal romp throws caution to the wind, blending hard-boiled crime and slapstick Western comedy into a single, high-speed farce. Franchot Tone stars as wisecracking reporter Tim Kansas Mason, sent undercover to the Midwest. Instead of blending in, Kansas stands out like a sore thumb, boots too big, always seconds from disaster, surrounded by a posse of clueless cowhands and scheming ranchers. Every time he tries to act like a cowboy, something goes hilariously sideways. The film's genius is its relentless pace. Barroom brawls morph into slapstick, shootouts devolve into pie fights, and every tense moment is undercut by a perfectly timed pratfall. Tone's sharp delivery bounces off a cast of comic heavies, with Broderick Crawford and Warren William joining in the mayhem. Culture clash jokes abound. Kansas ropes himself, nearly shoots his own boot, and always manages to say the wrong thing at the right time. Critics praised its energy and wit, and historians remember it as the film that proved Westerns could deliver belly laughs alongside the usual bullets. Trail of the Vigilantes is proof that sometimes the best posse is the one that can't shoot straight, but always hits the funny bone. So, there you have it. 14 Western comedies that prove the Wild West was just as quick with a punchline as with a pistol. From slapstick sidekicks to singing cowboys, these films remind us that laughter really does echo loudest across the open range. Which rootin' tootin' farce is your favorite? Did your pick make our Hall of Fame? Or is there a hidden gem we missed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and keep those spurs jangling till our next cinematic roundup.